I'm Lucia Annunzio. I'm the president and CEO of the Center for High Performance. The biggest challenge, business challenge I ever faced was at the end of the 90s. It was a crisis of conscience. 2 times in my career, at the end of the 80s and at the end of the 90s, there were financial recessions, neither one of which I was financially affected by. Luckily, I had written books, and consultants who write books that are written by good publishers that people actually read do better than the consultants that don't. Not right, not fair, but it happened. However, at the end of the 90s and at the end of the 80s, what I noticed was the first things cut were everything that had to do with how you treat your employees. And that's when I had a moment of conscience. I had to ask myself, was I selling snake oil, things that didn't matter, things that people didn't really need? And I was a do-gooder from the 60s, so being a hypocrite was, But I had a good job at a great consulting firm, a fabulous team. I handled it by quitting my job. I quit my job to find a funder, someone who would pay for funding on research to determine what were the factors that accelerated profitable growth. University of Chicago style, with hard, quantifiable data. Luckily, not only was I able to find that funder, I was able to do the first, most rigorous study of what the factors were that accelerated profitable growth. And instead of ending my career, it launched a new phase. I don't have a traditional company. I have a company of contractors. I believe the consulting model is dead. And so with each assignment I get, I look for who are the finest minds that I can get and build a cross-functional team of people who think differently that will go together and collaborate and come up with a solution that none of us could come up on our own with. So I will use unusual subjects. I will use people with, a degree in or experience in anthropology to work on an executive team assignment. People who bring in different kinds of knowledge to help us expand our thinking. I'm a thought leader, and I have a brand based on me. I am my brand and my books. And unlike Patrick Lencioni or Stephen Covey, I never learned how to replicate myself. So I have to keep me fresh. I have to constantly be writing. I do a newsletter, I do social media. I'm not going to write another book because what people don't understand about the book writing business is there's a lot of politics to it. And I don't have the stomach for it anymore. And so keeping fresh from a marketing perspective is really hard. However, social media has made it much easier. Actually, I think the consulting model as it currently exists is dead. I think consulting firms make a lot of money, but I think companies are getting smarter at realizing that when you get a branded big company, you're paying a lot of overhead for space that nobody uses. I was the CEO of a subsidiary of a publicly traded company, and one day it just hit me that I was spending so much money on space, so much money on Sarbanes-Oxley, so much money on lawyers, all of which wasn't really necessary to do my business. And in the consulting model, you play to the bench, meaning you try to sell work that you have employees to do. And I thought that model was dead. And so my company is based on the premise, what is the need that my client has? And who are the best experts, what I consider, in the world, where I can form a team of people that can give them the answer to their specific problem. And how can I use the young people in that company as my leverage and teach them the skills? So I'm hoping that the traditional consulting model is dead, and for the last 12 years I've been very successful at proving that.